All right. Hey, look, your team doesn't burn out because of the workload. They burn out because of what you transfer to them as a leader. Today's guest breaks down how stress, fear, and pressure silently move throughout the organization and how elite leaders are learning to interrupt that pattern. Welcome to the show, Christina. How are you?
Good. How are you? Thanks for having me. I appreciate it, John.
Awesome, awesome. I'm looking forward to this. We rediscovered how we met through a great contact of ours and great gentleman that's doing his own impactful work. And obviously, off camera, you were just starting to share with me a little bit of the story. So we're like, no, no, save it for the camera. So let's do that. And obviously, everybody has a journey. Everybody has a start. What we like to hear is initially is okay, were you a corporate America person? Did you go from, getting your education or maybe right out of high school, you started a business? Like what made Christina initially and how you've evolved over the years? So why don't we start off with that?
I'll tell you the short version of my journey. So I went to college, didn't really know what I wanted to do when I grew up, and I ended up in human resources, doing an internship, loved it, loved recruiting, ended up in corporate America at a large company that most people know for making soap. So they were originally Nelco, a chemical company, was bought by Ecolab and spent over 12 years there. That's where I learned basically everything that I've taken forward with me and how to lead people, manage people, and recruit. Then I started out my own company, um, did that for about 10 years and ended up selling the company. And as that journey unfolded, that is where I really started to understand what people even meant about burnout and work-life balance and having a company. I was working 90 to 100 hours a week, and this is not a joke. I was working from 7 in the morning after I worked out for 2 hours, and I would not stop until about 11 p.m. So wasn't getting enough sleep. I wasn't spending any time with my small kids at the time. We were also going through COVID. They were homeschooling. I had to bring a teacher in because I couldn't do it and I couldn't be there because I had to run a company. And I realized after I had some time to slow down and reflect when I sold the company that even after I sold the company, I was living in fear, anxiety, stress. Even though I had found modalities prior that helped me grow the company and overcome limiting beliefs of that I couldn't do it. I was a woman. I had all these questions in my mind and these beliefs that were holding me back when I first started the company. I overcame those actually with hypnosis. And then I still had a lot of work though to do around how do I regulate my body so that every action that I take with people and my employees and different things like that, they feel that fear, right? So you have to change how you regulate yourself so that that doesn't shoot out to everybody else that you're dealing with, if that makes sense.
Hmm. So it's interesting, right? Although quick, your journey was very deep because you spent a lot of time in that corporate space. It sounds like with pretty large company, um, and learn some of the hows and techniques and all that type of stuff. But then translating that to your own business, you took on all that effort of being in that, and you were in talent acquisition. Was that the main
Yes.
function? Okay,
Hmm.
all right. So, and it's funny enough. I've always had kind of an intrigue to that world because I've always felt like I've been great with networking and people, and I'm like, man, I know thousands of people. I'd be really good at placing them at different places and getting paid to do that, right? So it's always been something kind of curious to me, but like you said, there is a point of reflection where you say, okay, hey, am I truly running a business or am I a burnout sole proprietor slash I've got some help of people around me, but have I really built systems to save myself, time, energy, and money? Right. So,
Right.
and those types of things, right? To which that acronym, fulfills itself, right? So, from a point of stepping back, you sold a business, right? And that, was exciting and that all that good stuff. But I guess where did did you go back to school? Did you just do a lot of reflection? Did you bring on some coaches, some mentors, some people that you kind of reflected with, or was this really all an internal job and process?
Good question. Yeah, thank you. I'll take a step back just for your listeners so they understand. When I was building the company, I was not taking any time to be part of a mastermind or get coaching. I had advisors and friends that I leaned on, but I didn't go and seek out that help, right? And looking back, I wish I would have because I think I would have gotten a lot more support and maybe had the ability to look at my situation differently instead of just jumping right into selling the company. But
Mm.
I don't regret anything. I'm very happy where I am today. When I sold the company after I met my profit goals and things like that, I had major health issues. And so I actually had to go because I was working out so much and I had to stop working out and I had to have a full hip replacement. I was having severe pain. And
Oh, wow.
so I went and had that full hip replacement. And then after that, I basically had said, like, I can't do this right now. Like, I can't keep running this company. And so I took a step down. I focused on my health and I was doing a lot of meditation and praying and different things like that to figure out what I needed to do next in my life because recruiting was not fulfilling me anymore. And I had basically stepped out of that arena and made a promise that I wasn't going back into that arena for at least 2 years. So I had to figure out what to do, right? So
Hmm.
I did go back to school after a lot of my husband actually laughs because he's like, you started in your mind like 15 other companies, a school for kids. You were doing like, all these different, you were starting up a shoe company. Like every day I was doing something different. And when I told him, hey, I figured something out. I'm going to go back to school and get my hypnosis certification. I have my degree in psychology, so it kind of like all rolls together. Um, and he's like, we laugh about it now. He's like, I was so happy because you finally like found something that you could like do. So for almost a year, I had to do a lot of basically go back to school, right? Like do all of my schoolwork, do a lot of studies, all of that. And I spent that time not only learning all of the things that I needed to learn, but also doing that self-reflection and all of the techniques I was learning on myself. And it really revealed that work revealed that I was really living in fear and that I always came from a place that I was unsafe in some way. And a lot of that goes back to childhood issues, and we all carry trauma with us. And I know people hate that word, but we do. And it's how do we learn from those things? Whether your trauma was something really significant, like severe abuse, or maybe it was something that people were saying to you in school that other people might think's not trauma, but you took it in as trauma. We all have to
Hmm.
use those experiences to grow within our life. And going back to your question around coaching and things like that, that's when I started really bringing in other experts, right? So I needed a really good expert in hypnosis. I had to get a coach to help me understand how to invest my money and taxes and things like that because I didn't know and I clearly wasn't doing it right. So I had to be able to say to myself, I don't know this. I don't know how to research this. I don't know where to go. I need to join some groups, get a mastermind, join a mastermind and get some coaching. And so I went out and obtained all those things so that I could better myself and I didn't make the same mistakes I made last time.
Well, what an experience, right? You put yourself in a situation where you built something that was sellable, which is awesome, but you also, broke yourself down a little bit, right? Personally and body wise and all these things, from stress and all the factors that, right, as human beings, we unfortunately don't get taught this. We need to catch it, and part of it is then learning, okay, how do we deal with all that stuff? And certain people have a higher tolerance, some people have less, and what have you. We got to learn that space, or that feeling about ourselves. So interesting. You take this time, right, and you develop it yourself into a different, transformative new person in a way. Now you'd say to yourself, okay, well, now I've got these new tools, this new discovery about myself. Where did then the next business idea? Because, I could relate shiny object syndrome. Oh yeah, AI right now. I can do that. I can consult. I can do a peer group. I can do this. I'm in a similar transitional period myself right now, but it's interesting, being on a podcast and learning this or hearing this from other people. So where was then that point of, okay, hey, now I'm well equipped back to a natural state of desire to go out there in the marketplace to then launch something new?
Yeah, so I just sit a lot and quiet and I follow my own advice, right? So I was able to do a meditation, and the meditation I feel blessed that I'm able to connect intuitively with what might some people might call God, other people might call their higher self, whatever it is that resonates with you. I got this download that said you need to save the children. And so I took that and I manifested out into the world. And I know a lot of people don't like the word manifest, but I said, what do I need to do? And I was just following the breadcrumbs that were being given to me and what my intuition was saying. So I created a twofold hypnosis, meditation, immersive relaxation opportunity. One, I am in Lisle, Illinois at a office called Meridian Peak Hypnosis, and I see almost exclusively children in that office. I do have some adults that come in that are high stress leaders like surgeons, executives, things like that. But I see a lot of kids that are elite athletes and very elite in their academics, and they have an excessive amount of stress and anxiety to uphold those things. And I feel like that is where I'm supposed to be helping, being service to others. And then I sat back and said, what I do see in a lot of this is that the parents also need support, but they're not coming in for that. They're seeking that out for their children. And so I said, how could I bring this process to people faster? And that's when I created Practice Peace and the Peace Response. And I'm selling this to companies where they can give this to their employees 1 hour a week. It's totally voluntary, where we go through and we practice peace. It's pause, establish safety, align your behaviors, create calm, and encode peace under pressure. And by doing that, we go through a few steps of like, what does that mean in a day-to-day office setting or corporation or whatever. And then we go through an immersive relaxation, about 30 to 45 minutes, where we turn the cameras off. I put on some music, and this is literally their time to start to feel safe and calm to create, because our minds create our reality. And if we are always in a place where we're fearing for our jobs, we don't know if we're going to pay the bills, we don't know maybe if we're going to be able to put food on the table because our boss is always yelling at us, or our spouses can always telling us that we're not doing a good job, or whatever's going on in your life, you have to take the time out to do these things so that you can create the life that is not currently in front of you, the life that is there for you to grab when you take the time out. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it certainly resonates. I'm not going to say that I've perfected that by any means. It's an interesting dynamic. I feel most comfortable, working and strategizing and looking at things from a perspective of like I want to be in the minutia, but that could be a little bit of reflection on. I just recently did a test for ADHD. I'm doing some work with that. But it's interesting because I feel comfortable in the stress, and I actually have not been able to see how if I take myself off, where that I could land. But what a cool introspective way to look at it. And hopefully, Go4CEO community, you just took that last minute or two that Christina shared and thought to yourself, like, hey, I'm watching this video. This is cool and educational. Wow, I'm getting a lot of value, but could I see myself doing what Christina just said? And even at your own office, corporately, having that allowed time to take a step back and take a breather is really, really an interesting dynamic. And I will say, I mean, obviously, as you launched into that space and have this practice outside of the kids and the things that you do in Lyle, what have been some of the ways that you, I guess, have marketed it, right? And said to, company owners and business people like, hey, this is a necessary event that could happen and could take the whole stress doesn't equal learning, stress doesn't equal productivity, stress doesn't equal slash, because if you are in stress mode, you don't produce those things, right? So
Yeah.
interesting
Well,
stuff.
and I'm going to take if you don't mind, I'm going to take a step back to what you had said about how you kind of like you've got the ADHD thing going on, which one, I have to tell you, ADHD is really just an acronym for understanding things at a higher dimension. So
Hmm.
your brain, literally, I'm a fellow ADHD, is seeing things that most people don't see. So you and
Hmm.
I see things at like 115%. And so you're like probably like me where you're like, "Whoa, did you see that over there?" And everybody else is like, "No, what are you talking about?" Or, this book is out of place, or, these things, and your brain is just like firing all the time. And that's actually a superpower. And so you just need to harness in at, what is it that really gets you into flow? Because when you can get into flow and get into doing something that isn't causing you this immense amount of stress, you're then finding like your genius and where your energy is supposed to be. So take it as a blessing. That's the
Hmm.
number one. This other thing that you said that struck me was that you don't know how to, I think, I don't know, forgive me exactly, this probably isn't your exact words, but you're not sure how to get out of that stress loop. And I am telling you that when you get out of it, it will make a huge difference in your life. I'm not telling you stress will never go away, but you're so used to the stress and the cycle. I'm going to give an example of this, and hopefully a lot of your listeners can resonate with it. When you get into a relationship, whether it's with a boss or a significant other, and it's a bad relationship. Okay, it's something that like your friends might be saying, "What are you doing?" Or and you know intuitively that it's not a good relationship, but you constantly are fighting, pushing against each other, in this cycle of get in a fight, then we're going to love each other, and then we're going to get in another fight, and then I'm going to buy you a present or whatever,
Hmm.
it's that cycle. It actually comes from trauma cycles from our childhood and our attachment cycles. So even though we know it's bad, we stay in these cycles because it makes us feel safe, because we know what's going to happen. We know that the next step is going to do this, and then I'm going to get the serotonin or the dopamine hit or whatever it is that your brain likes, because it knows like, okay, well, even though I'm going to get in this fight, it's going to be all okay later because I'm going to get this gift or whatever it is, or my boss will end up saying sorry or whatever, right?
Hmm.
So we have to get out of those cycles so that and teach ourselves how to realize that we can be safe without those negative cycles that we're so used to.
It's very interesting. I instantly related to the way that you shared a described version of relationships, right? And understanding kind of how that dynamic has impacted many things in my life, from prior marriage to current marriage to, to scenarios, right? Or before marriage, I say. I only got married once, but current marriage and stuff. The wife will kill me for saying, but yeah, and with kids and dynamics and business and looking at ideas like you said, and kind of that flow state of where do I find myself in that perfect zone, right? And how do I get myself there? So, all right, so then does peace then become that next step to build the business outside of, the great impact work that you're doing with the kids at the Lyle firm?
Yeah, so practice piece was an idea that came like late last year, and I
Mm-hmm.
have five pilot companies that have been doing it since November.
Mm.
I added a couple new ones just recently because it's going so well. And all the companies, we put it together as a 12-week program. And so they wanted to see, are they getting good feedback from the employees? Is it a wellness offering that employees want and they're engaged in. And within 12 weeks, as long as the company is, you know, supporting it and saying, hey, we really want you here and this is a good thing, we've seen anywhere from 19 to 50% increase in growth over a 20-week period with some of our pilot companies. And their employees are literally saying, please, on the surveys, please do not take this away from us. This is the best wellness benefit we've ever had.
Hmm.
It's not some app. It's not, I'm doing something a little bit different every time. I'm teaching them something. Like, I'll give you an example of what we're doing. So when we talk about pausing, right? So we might say today we're going to talk about pausing. And when shut your eyes and imagine yourself in a situation where somebody, either a coworker or a manager, has said something to you that makes you feel unworthy or small. Maybe, this is extreme, but maybe they called you an idiot. Okay.
Mm.
When someone says that to you, take a pause. You do not have to respond to that person right away. Regulate your nervous system in the way that you can breathe for 8 seconds, so whatever it is. Maybe take a deep breath and go, and then let it out. And just doing that, you can feel like when you do it with me, how much better your body feels. And now you're going to answer from a place of more clarity than a place of protecting yourself. Okay. So now by that breath, you've established some safety. Next, what you want to do is repeat what they just said to you. So you say, can you repeat that to me? Did you just call me an idiot? 90% of the time, someone's going to say, yeah, I don't know why I did that. I'm really sorry, whatever. And
Mm.
maybe that other 10% of the time, they're going to say, yeah, I called you an idiot. And then you're going to take another deep breath and you're going to say, and what does that do for you? And I am telling you, 100% of the people won't be able to answer that question because they're doing it to make you feel bad because they feel bad about themselves. So when you
Mhm.
start to turn it around on people and realize that you're just here being the mirror for them to take out whatever's going on internally in their body, that it makes you so much safer. And so we work on that first. And then you can do more deeper and deeper work as you begin to feel safer and safer in your own body and in your own situation.
So it's interesting, I recently am working with a potential opportunity that he's created a SaaS that is an evaluation mechanism, an assessment of 43 questions. You go through the process with your team, and then it evaluates how stress does not equal learning. So meaning, how you're going to be able to then coach and facilitate a way that your management team can then have better meetings, more effectiveness, and it all drops to the EBITDA bottom line, right? So it's interesting that you've been able to share this component of wellness and use this knowledge that you picked up for that year of own self-studying and all that type of stuff, right, to implement into companies. Now, have you gone back to companies that you did business with before, or what was some of the strategy? Because, you know, if you're not part of like some sort of Humana Health, app or something like that that you're built into in that situation, how did that transform for you in a business opportunity?
So I am a big advocate of using the relationships that you've built over
Hmm.
time of people who trust you to have you come in and do something like a pilot, right? Make it affordable so that they can offer these things to their employees. And trust me that I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do. And so that's what's that it's been my reputation, right? And so they trust me. They know that I'm going to show up the way that I show up, that I'm not just selling them a bill of goods, and they trust me with their most precious thing. It's really their body, their minds, and their employees. And I'm grateful
Hmm.
for that. And it's because of the person that I show up as.
Yeah, I mean, you transformed, right, from your experience of this high stress, high workload, high, scenario to releasing it, right, selling the company and creating some space between you and that mechanism. And now, how interesting you completely transformed into a different genre of business, right? But going back to that world and bringing it value based on the experiences and now the new tools that you have, how cool is that to then be one of the people that can now recognize what's happening in there and then pluck out that leadership or even just high producing person to say to them, hey, let's take a 30-minute break, or an hour, however long you do your session. So really, really cool. As part of the marketing, creating a like an online, useful case, place to work into, or do you have an app that you're developing? Is there a book that you've written? Like what are some of the next steps for you in this practice peace journey?
So I'm about to launch our website and we will have some case studies on there. I am looking at writing a book. I love to write. I've done lots of articles. I have a newsletter on LinkedIn and I just started over at Substack called You're a Genius. Lean into it because everybody is. They just have to find it within themselves. So yeah, there's probably a book on my horizon. And then, yeah, from a marketing perspective, I also run Remember You. It's a podcast about really understanding who you are as a person and remembering why you are here. And you have to take a step back, like we've talked about this entire podcast, to remember what your purpose is and where your flow is supposed to go. That's your energy. And we have to remember that we're all magical people, and what we think and where we put our attention is what will come out in front of our eyes. So we have to teach people how to stop being stressed and start feeling their intuition.
It's so yesterday, be a little bit exposed personally, right? I have a friend that's also a pretty high level executive coach, and I got let go in my business bank, commercial banking world. Had made a decision to move from one bank to another. Didn't work out. 8 months later, they had a reduction in force. I'm in this 30-day transition right now. I'm interviewing with a bunch of potential banks and stuff, but I'm also thinking like, is this the right time for me to go on my own? Right. I've done it before. I've sold a business in '09, became a banker. So I kind of did the opposite. I went entrepreneur to banker. But yesterday, this gentleman completely over the phone slapped me from one cheek to the next. Right. He had given me a directive and said, hey, I want you to accomplish this just as something that we're kind of working together. And he's doing it, I guess pro bono per se. But, um, But it was funny because I didn't deliver on that. And what I told them in this first 30 days of being kind of in this free agent mode, hey, I saw this and did this and, I worked at this and yeah, I did 100 emails of that, but nah, then this, whatever, all that stuff. And it was interesting of, he just told me, say, hey, John, be quiet. Like, what's your why? Like, why does it, because he's in the executive coaching space. And I've been thinking about that. I've been thinking about peer groups and how impactful after the pandemic it is to really, break bread with people and have community and have time. I had a gentleman that owns a commercial evaluation services company, and he loves, like, literally said, I love that it's on my calendar that I leave for one day to go to my Vistage group peer group thing, right? And I could break away and I have it on my calendar and it forces me to get out of my office to go be with some peers, to talk through some issues, to just break bread with them, right? As one of the things that they do. So it's interesting. I think as the AI world gets more impactful and we all get all these noises instead of signals, um, we have to be able to take a step back, right? Humans, we have community built into us. We have tribe built into us, right? It's kind of a innate nature thing. So what a cool journey that you've been on. So, and to create a business out of it, honestly, why not, right? Why not get paid for the ability to bring this nuance into the marketplace and showcase it in a way that it is true, it makes a difference. So uh, I don't know that there's a quantifiable ROI on it, but you put actually maybe I'm wrong here, so I don't want to speak out of turn. Is you said that you have seen actual productivity turn to the upside, right?
Yeah, yeah, they're seeing at least the least amount that we've seen is a 19% increase in revenue. And is
Wow.
that attributed to just this once a week, meditation slowdown? I don't know, but it is results, and I was part of it. So it's definitely something. I mean, if you think about, to go to your points about community and how special that is, if we take time to meditate, to pray, to do different things together as a community, even if it's breaking bread, thinking about the same thing, solving a problem that the community is having together, we have to realize that we are not individuals working against each other. We're one working together. And things like the Mandela effect, things like Schumann resonance, these are proven things that the Heart Math Institute has shown, that when we put our hearts and our minds together as humans and we go forward together in love, that means shutting down the I don't like this person because they're not like me, or I blah blah blah, whatever it is that's going through your mind from an ego perspective needs to be calmed down, and bring the subconscious together. My subconscious with your subconscious is powerful. We create whatever it is we want to create. And that is where, you know, think about hypnosis. We're currently all under hypnosis. We're all under a trance. We're under the I have to work hard, I have to pay my taxes, I have to have a white picket fence, I have to do these, I have to do this, I have to do that. All I'm saying is you can break out of it. You can decide to hypnotize yourself and say, I have a beautiful family. And maybe it's not the family that everybody says, two kids, a wife, and all these things. Maybe it's whatever version of your family is right for you. And I have skills that my community needs and wants. And I'm going to bring that to my community. And the community can get together and visualize something so much more beautiful than what we see on the news and TV and social media. We have that power. We just have to wake up and stop being hypnotized to the negative, start being hypnotized to the positive.
I love it. I love it. My wife, about a few years ago, had run into a gal named Kathy Heller. She's kind of a Joe Dispenza
Yeah.
disciple type person. Um, and she's struggled. We've had some things going on in family life, but she's struggled tying it completely together. So it's so interesting to kind of, and I'm going to have her hear this podcast, hear your vision of how that looks like, right? And how it could work in the marketplace. And, with all these people working remote and, I mean, my wife works from home and it's interesting. She's on the legal side of things in advertising. And, the other day we just went out. It was sunny like it is today. We went out and just walked for 15
Hmm.
minutes, and it made the world of difference to her and to me. I genuinely felt like there was a connection there, and walking together and all that good stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's lost in the minutia, right? It's lost in the day to day. It's lost in how we go to our work. And for guys, it's a little bit different, right? It's a scorecard for us. I just had a little spat with a few of my friends, and I've been friends with these guys for 25, 30 years. And, we kind of got into it a little bit because of the war and some things. And I'm saying, hey, you got to lead from the front, in my opinion. I like what the president's doing. And one of the guys' opinions was like, well, in corporate America, we don't say lead from the front. And I was like, what the heck are you talking about? Like, you have to lead from the front. So it was kind of like a spat, and then it got personal a little bit. And we went to dig a little bit to each other. We're guys, so we dig at each other. And the next day, we all kind of felt like this, spiritual thing of like we all apologized on text. We're like,
Yeah.
hey, I'm sorry, man. Like I shouldn't have gone that deep, or hit you with that low of a remark or whatever, right? And it was good to feel that, because I think ultimately, you know, one thing that came up was like everybody's journey is different. Uh, I'll give an example of like size of our house, right? Like for some reason that came up, right? Um, and I say, hey, we value in my family travel and some other things. And this gentleman, a friend of mine, obviously, but he values having a bigger house, right? And we live in Naperville, so it's like a thing out here, right? And I said to him, look, that's awesome, man. Like you value that. We haven't. We may want to build a bigger house one day, but it's like it's not been a thing for us. So if it's not a thing for me, it doesn't mean it has to be a thing for you, right? All that type of thing. So interesting stuff. So all right, look,
It's so, you know what? I'll tell you one thing. I'm going to interrupt you for 1 second. That is so powerful because it's what makes us all different. And we have to learn that, like, what gets me happy might not get you happy. And so
Mhm.
that's why we can all have different things. We can do different things. And we have this light inside of us that we have to get in touch with to realize that we're unique. We're not like any of our friends. We're not like any of our parents or teachers or whatever. We have our unique spark and we are allowed to get in touch with that. And we need to. And having discussions like what you had with your friends in a safe environment, even though maybe it felt a little like, oh, shoot, it went a little too far, that helps you understand the power of what I'm talking about. You have to
Mhm.
feel the ooh, you have to feel the restriction to be able to grow the light even more bright. So,
Yeah. Well, look, I think it's really cool that you formed a business yet again, out of the things that you learned before, the release of exiting a business, the, retooling of your own self and education and everything. And you're getting a ton of fulfillment too, working with these kids. And, is that kind of, you're a part of that institution, as an employee, or what's that dynamic?
yeah, I'm a contractor for
Okay.
them.
Okay.
People can find me and make appointments online through their scheduling system. That's
Okay.
the only way that I see people one-on-one.
Sure.
Otherwise, it's through the group piece process through your corporation. So if people are interested in bringing this into their corporations, just reach out to me on LinkedIn or the website practicepiece.co will be up in a week. So probably
Awesome.
before this podcast gets launched.
Awesome. Awesome. I'm looking forward to it. And as a author myself, now I challenge people because now I can say I'm an author, right? Like the book came out and it's interesting. I love, what is going to come out of that book from you, and what you're going to give to the universe. And it's a cool feeling. I will say when you see your literary knowledge go into a book and then it's in the Library of Congress. it's a humbling feeling that now you've left something behind for maybe 100 years from now. Some person picks up your book and goes, "Oh wow, look, I learned something." Right? It's really cool. So, all right. So look, obviously we went into more of the mindfulness of the things that that impact business from a business standpoint where you're currently at. Just out of curiosity, do you charge on a monthly subscription? Do you have a retainer that they work off of hourly hours that you come in? What's kind of the revenue source of how you built that model, the pricing model?
Yeah, so it's over a 12-week pilot first that you do, and
Mhm.
there's no, you can cancel at any time. So if you choose the there's like a three pack that you can choose, and that's like just let's try it out and see what the employees think of it. That's a fee of $3,600 for up to 50 employees, and then you can do the 10 or the 12-week for 10,000, again up to 50 employees. If you want something more than that, then there's an enterprise package that we'll be looking at, and we can co-create something. But I do want to bring this to as many people as possible. So I am not stuck at, these pricing categories. If you're like, I need this for my team and myself, talk to me and we'll figure out what's going to work within your budget that will also make it make sense for me to show up every week.
Hmm. And as a former business owner that built a pretty large business that got to sell one, scalability of this particular business, because you are the knowledge base and you have this really unique gift that you meditated on and brought into your sphere of influence. What's your scalability model like? Is there other people that maybe you resonated that became friends from the scholastic journey that you went on? Um, are you
Yeah.
are
So
you
the
recruiting or how's that working?
Yeah, so my friend Hope Shea, she is right now a co-founder, and I found her through my journeys, like you just said. So she's there. I mean, obviously, I can't show up every single week to 40 different meetings, right? So she's there to help out. Big idea, right? Who knows where this is going to go, is that it's going to be a training framework that I franchise. And so you go through a training program with me and you will learn how and what I do, and then you can bring it out to your companies and your geography and make it into something even unique for yourself, but using our formula. So that's my big idea of how we're going to scale it. Who knows where that will end up going?
Awesome. Awesome. Well, we'll have to have you back to share that journey over the next 6, 12, 18 months and kind of see where you're at. And, I love that you said formula. It's, selfishly, I talk about the 4A formula, and it took me 2.5 years to kind of say to myself, and like I said, I'm doing some ADHD work with some counseling, and I'm trying to figure out like, all right, hey, but in that 2.5 years of then writing the book, it really popped off, right? And it said to me, oh, here's a formula that I use personally, just John Andrade, in faith, family, fitness, finance, and fun. And how do I break down this situation? I assess it, I align with the right people, take alignment, and then I take accountability because ultimately I look in the mirror and say, hey, it's up to me. If it is to be, it's up to me. And then, I take massive action. And there's obviously there's intricate parts within that. And there's some bonus chapters of people that I've had on the podcast that talk about some of their journeys and how they've kind of used the sense of what they thought would be a 4A formula and stuff like that. So really interesting stuff. So, um, you know, Christina, what I usually do to end the podcast is go through CEO, right? And I think you'll
Mhm.
enjoy this. So, C is for client experience. So, these 5 companies that are just kind of the beginning stages of what you've been able to put together with Practice Peace and your co founder, what would you say is the value proposition when you take a step back and a company says yes to you and they have 50 or lower employees and they want to be a part of this process? What does that client experience look like?
The client experience is giving your team an immersive relaxation 1 hour a week that they will not get. They won't do it on their own. You've given them apps and things like Headspace, Insight Timer, Calm, whatever, and they don't do it because they don't have time. And so this is putting time on their calendar, part of their week. You're paying them and paying for this, and you're giving them time back to learn the magic and remember the magic of who they are so that they show up better in your workplace and hopefully at home. That's what my wish, that they're bringing this into their home so that their kids can learn how to do this too, which is where my whole intention is. The other, I guess you could say, bottom line is when we're really looking at turnover, which I am, when I was in human resources and talent acquisition, a lot of my clients had anything from 40 to 50% turnover. You know, some the good ones had 20% turnover. And when you start to look at that, if this, this program, you stop one of your high performers from leaving and also help them make better decisions, you've paid for this program like 5 times over. And save one person and you start saving the world. And so that's the way I look at it. Reduce your turnover, keep your people happy. The grass is not greener on the other side. Give them these tools and have them use it in your organization and support them, help them feel seen, loved, and heard. And when you start to bring love into your organization, that really stops the fear and all of the ego talk that we tend to build companies on.
Nice. I love it. I love it. I think that hit home. That hits home. And I think anybody listening to that, especially if you're an executive, a CEO, founder of a company, building a multi-million dollar company, because when you get to about 50 employees, you are a multi-million dollar company. You need to take some of those resources that you've been able to go straight to the bottom line and reinvest it into your people with a company like Christina has built with Practice Peace. So, all right. The second one is E for engagement. So this one's always cool because 350, 400 interviews I've had, they're all kind of different. Um, how do how should people engage with Christina? Like, what do you really enjoy? Are you a break bread person? Do you like to go out to great dinners? Do you like to go to events? Do you just like want to have a conversation? Are you more energized because you went to a play? What are some things and ways that people could really resonate to say, oh, if I want to, really get in good with Christina, this is a way that I can engage with her.
I like to have real conversations. So if we're having a conversation, I want it to be useful for you and for me and to both walk away feeling energized. So maybe it's getting together over a cup of coffee or whatever it is and having a real conversation. What's going on? What is on your mind? And how can we come together to create solutions that are going to work for you? And when I know that I'm giving back and I'm being of service to the people that I'm talking to, that really gets me happy and fulfilled.
I love it. All right. Well, thank you for that. It's always interesting to hear from the mouth of someone that is sharing exactly how they engage, right? So, last one is operational excellence. And obviously, for the business that you sold, you probably had a lot of tools to make sure that you grew to the size that you did. In this particular business, are there any tools that you're using from AI to Monday.com to CRM to scheduling tools? Like, what are the ways that you are making sure that you're operationally sound and being able to deliver what you do?
Yeah, so I just engaged an AI expert to help me with actually the Remember You side of it, the podcast, because it was taking up a lot of my time.
Mhm.
So they came in and optimized the entire process, told me what platforms I need to get on, and basically from the time of recording all the way to the time that we get we publish the podcast, and all of our social media has now been optimized. So I really only have to spend a couple hours a week doing reviewing and publishing things. Before it was taking me a long time, like 15 hours a week. So that was optimized. And then I am a big advocate of calendars. So I use HubSpot for our CRM, and I actually just switched over to iCalendar, and it seems to be working better because I was able to get all my different calendars into one.
Mm.
And yeah, I mean, every day I'm looking at AI as a tool, but I am not. You could tell by this entire interview that I like AI as a tool. I don't want it to start to replace people's critical thinking and the ability for us to build community and really come together. I'm hoping AI starts to take away some of our mundane tasks that we do, which keeps us in front of a computer all day. So then we can come back into Mother Earth and a community and say, let's build something even better than we could ever have imagined. How do we stop some of this war, some of this fighting, some of these things? And when we come together as a community, I know we think that we're like these little people that have given our power to, our leaders and different things like that. But when we come together and know our personal power, that's when our world is going to change. And that is my hope for what AI is going to bring to this world.
Yeah, no, I love it. I think there's so much truth in that. The simplicity of taking something off your plate can be a multiple of 5 and 10x, right? At times that you don't even realize when you could take some of that automation and help you create some things. And I can relate. I've been doing this thing for 5 years on podcasting, and my wife's like, how much time are you spending? You don't even make any money at it. I'm like, well, it's a labor of love, number one. I love doing it. So I continue to do it. Steve Bartelt, who is Diary of a CEO, he
Yeah.
says, if you're not going to do it because you would do it for 10,000 hours just because you love it, then don't do it. Right. And that's
Yeah.
kind of what I've done is done this in that sense. But you're so right. Uh, once I automated some things, it relieved a ton of stress because I was up till midnight and doing things and da da da. Right. So, anyway, but awesome. Well, hey, how do people get a hold of you? What's the best way to connect with Practice Peace, and how to engage if they find this video and they say to themselves, man, I'd love to bring this into my company?
Yeah, they can find me on LinkedIn, Christina Olson. So that's the best way. I'm there mostly every day. I check my DMs, all that. Or you could always send me an email and I'll give it to you and you can put it in the show notes. So
Awesome, awesome. Well, hey, Go4CEO community, if you haven't hit the subscribe channel right now, do it. Hit the subscribe channel, be a part of the community. Also, pick up the book, The 4A Formula, Untangle Any Challenge and Think Like a CEO. Brings you a lot of ways to really kind of untangle yourself in faith, family, fitness, finance, and fun. It brings you closer to people like Christina and what she's doing with Practice Peace, and become a better person, right? Over the next few months, as we get into the summer months, especially in the United States, take some time back, right? Try to learn more about yourself and find some ways to just go out and get some vitamin D, walk around. It makes a big, big difference to be a little bit retrospective, a little bit introspective, and give you that peace and time. So thanks so much, Christina, for being a part of the Go4CEO channel.
thank you.